Hey, this is Eric from Catching Light.
Hey, this is Hemp.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hi, I'm Steve-O.
Hey, this is Drew Hines with Hindsight Imagery.
This is Matt Callahan at Digimatty Photographic Services.
Hey, this is Jason, and welcome to Tales from the Pit. Welcome to Tales from the Pit, the behind-the-lens access to the entertainment world and the creative people involved. Today is part 2 with our guest, photographer, guitar player, Joe Hottinger of Halestorm. We hope you enjoy the episode. So this next question will probably lead off into our next topic here, but when you're not playing music, what is your passion to kind of unplug and all that stuff?
Yeah, I take pictures.
I
like it. And I've always loved doing that. When we first went out to California in 2007 to get started on working on the first album, I had like what was my first camera? Kodak. It was like probably $50. Kodak digital camera with a screen like this big. Like you take the picture, like, yeah, that was all right. I don't know. And there's nothing you can do, but it's like a point and shoot, crappy
like
digital.
A 1 megapixel.
Yeah. It was like, and I loved it. It was great, Yeah. And, then I got real fancy and got this little Nikon point and shoot where you could actually like have some depth of field, just a little, and maybe zoom in and out, and it could do a macro picture. I was like, ooh, macro's neat. And, you discover it's like picking up a guitar, and you have your first guitar and you make your first chord and you're like, I like that. And so you learn the next one and you just learn things. And by the time we were like halfway through our whole first album thing, I had like a Nikon D40, maybe the cheapest DSLR you could buy. But I was living on like $500 a month at the time. So there was a lot of saving up to get that. I was like food and everything. I had it budgeted down. I was like, I got $200 a month to eat, and I got like $50 a month to put away and save up for something nice, and
right.
I got my first DSLR with a kit lens that came with it. I don't even know what it was, 35 to whatever. And that was amazing to me. Like that blew my mind. And you could control everything, all 3 points of the triangle,
Yep.
And I just took a ton of pictures, like thousands of pictures out there from that point on. And we got back to Pennsylvania after we made that first record, and I kind of stopped taking pictures for a while. And I don't know why. Maybe it was the gray weather. It was November. It was, California's sunny and just outside all the time, always just hunting stuff. And I just kind of stopped, and we went into full on band mode, putting out the first record and just doing stuff. And I got another camera. I was always like a fan of like Jim Marshall, and like all the kind of classic rock and roll things, the backstage things, the behind the scenes, and some of the live stuff, but we're always on stage. So, and people are always taking pictures of us live. So it's it's never been like something where I'm like curious about that much. It's more like those pictures of like, like Janis Joplin sitting backstage where they're selling Comfort, and these just these images that made these people iconic, and like, that is so cool looking, and it always kept showing up to me like it'd be a Leica or something that they were using, and
yeah,
so I was like, what is the deal with that? Like, why do I keep seeing that German brand? And I know it doesn't, it's like guitars, like you see Jimmy Page playing Gibson Les Paul, you see Hendrix playing a Strat, and you see Freddie King, he's got a Gibson 345. It's always these Gibsons or these Fenders or a Gretsch or something. It's like these brands that you associate with this greatness. And like one of the first things I did when I really started collecting guitars was I was like, all right, I need a great Les Paul, great Strat, a great Tele. And, I need an SG, and you know, you need I wanted one of all of these things because you play like a 59 burst, even if it's a reissue, which I don't have a real one, but my reissue is like you're tapping into the history of it, you know, and when you do it on stage, like to me, that's where it matters. I want to feel, if I'm going to be on stage, I want to feel cool, you know, I want to feel, it's like dressing up, you know, you feel good when you have something on there. And it's the same with like the camera thing. You know, I got my first Leica in Germany in 2015. It was just one of their point and shoot deluxes, but it like blew my mind. It looked so different than anything I'd ever shot before. And whatever, I know you can, the brand doesn't matter. You know, they're tools for sure.
Sure.
But it felt better to me, and that matters. You know, it's like a nice guitar. And I was using that for a bit, but it's more of a point and shoot type thing, the Deluxe, and you can do the manual thing, but it wasn't like how I remembered it with my first DSLR. Like the lens I had wasn't manual or wasn't auto anything, so I had to. That's what I fell in love with was you know, like forming the picture, and you had to get it right, and like and not just bam, bam, bam. That's not that much fun for me just to hit it, and it's like, okay, well, I want to work for it, damn it. It's like that neck on a guitar, like you gotta work for it, and so I rented in 2019. I rented a Leica, an M10, you know, a rangefinder, digital rangefinder with a 50 millimeter lens, because they're so friggin' expensive. I'm not just gonna buy one, and I didn't know anything about rangefinders. I didn't know anything, you know. I had to try it. So I rented it for a week, and like the first day I was like, no, this is crazy. I don't know. Then the second day I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I fell in love with taking pictures again on a level that I mean, I still am on, you know? And I was like, okay, I get it. And I immediately ordered my M10P that I have upstairs. I like the color green. So the Safari was still available. So I got the green one. It was like, it's awesome. But I got that in a 35 millimeter Summilux, which is a 1.4. And it's just it's beautiful. It's what a combo. And that just has been down a path of gear acquisition that is, I had to.
That's some high end, expensive stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's bad. It's bad. It's good. Great. Love it.
When you first started getting getting used to your first camera or in the early days of the camera, did you have someone, or how did you learn how to use it? I know right now you guys have Judy as your touring photographer and stuff like that. Did you have someone to like teach you that stuff? Or you just learn it yourself?
No, I just, you just figure it out. They're digital cameras. So blam, take a look. Oh, how do you make it do the thing I want it to do? And you figure it out, and then you remember it. And yeah, I mean, it was literally like every day in California making that first record. We weren't in the studio, and I was trying to take pictures. I mean, that was a whole other thing. You're in the studio. The lights are down way low, Right. And how do you, I remember I found on Craigslist out in LA a 50 millimeter, maybe 35, I forget, but it was like a 1 point something. It was like $50. It was the Canon's cheapest, like wide open lens that they had. But that was the all manual one. And that's just what I left on there, because there's the only way to get some pictures in the studio without using a flash. And so you just figured it out, and you start reading more about it. This is before like YouTube was really maybe it was out, but it wasn't like things on there where you could learn things. So I think I have the hard drive still. I think there's like 20,000 pictures on there from those 6 or 7 months that I had that out there. And it's just constantly taking pictures. Anywhere we go, I have my camera with me, and which is still pretty much true. But yeah, just diving in. And then like when I got the rangefinder and really like started molding my brain around the whole thing again, now there's all these, I took a few like lesson things, like I took like this, and this was when the pandemic started, really is when I kind of dove into actually like trying to figure something out about it, because we did that was 2019, July 2019. I got my Leica, the rangefinder, and we did the Alice Cooper tour, and then a tour with Godsmack, and then we went around the world. We started in Europe and England and Japan and Australia, and then back home for a few months, and the pandemic set in. So once that set in and realized we didn't have that much work to do other than write songs, and sometimes you just have to take a break from that for a second. I took some classes, I did a Museum of Modern Art. Everyone, there was that beautiful moment at the beginning of the pandemic where we were all together and everyone was in this together, and nothing had been politicized, and all the politics of that whole era were just gone, because we were making videos, sending videos of singing songs to hospitals that were requesting it, and everyone was doing something for everybody, and opening up their platforms. Like the Museum of Modern Art in New York opened up this whole thing, hey, take free classes, so I took this whole photography class and kind of learned the history from the first pictures and all the dudes in the first photo gallery, just all these things, and getting photography and how the struggle to get it to be recognized as art, and learning about the history, and then the Annie Leibovitz and Jimmy Chin master classes. I watched those, and but I was ordering photo books were coming weekly and just devouring them, and just trying to figure out once you start to learn about all the different areas. I just love to take pictures, especially of our wildlife. I'm living my childhood dream, so I'm I'm gonna take pictures. These will be great to have forever.
Yeah.
But why? And what's the purpose of this? And what is what is this style? How would you even label it? And I don't know. I'm still trying to maybe figure that out. But just to, those are the things I started to dive into.
Yeah. I mean, documentary photographing,
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. We talked about real quick earlier is, you would put some classic photos, and put some interesting, entertaining stories behind those photos. Do you have any plan to do anything? You maybe put a book out or anything like that? Any thoughts on anything like that?
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally going to. My next battle, I'm all right, do I learn InDesign and try to figure out how to put this thing together? Or I was talking to this photographer yesterday, and she was like I do my stuff in Procreate, on an iPad, which I use Procreate all the time. So I do a different set list every day. I put a bunch of art together. It's usually a joke, but it's not for sale or anything. It's just, I steal pictures off the internet and try to make the crew laugh when we hand them out, and then the band laugh when they see them on stage. I'll Photoshop someone's face on something, depending on what town we're in or what day it is, whatever. But I know how to use Procreate really well. So that's my next, whatever. That's what's bouncing around my brain right now. Maybe I can put together, but I have I've taken, obviously this whole time we've been putting this record together from the very beginning now till the very end. I have pictures of the whole thing, from Lizzie writing lyrics out on the deck over here, or us working together on, or rehearsing, and then the pandemic, and just the whole weird story of the record, how it played out, and being in the studio with Nick and out in LA, and when she's writing with Scott or writing here with us, and to mixing and listening, and the whole thing to the very end. And we'll see. What I want to do is not what is necessarily going to happen, but I want to have something together for the record, their deluxe thing, and definitely a book. And I've already called the images up until a few months ago down to 600 out of thousands. And I got to do the next section, get that together, then call those one more time. And, and I watched a class, Magnum Photos, the Magnum photo scene. Yep. I watched one of their masterclass type things, and with Jonas Ben, I don't know how to say his last name. Is he Swedish or Finnish or Norwegian? I don't know. He's Scandinavian. Yeah. He's up there. And his whole telling stories through pictures, and then putting a book together, and how he organizes things. And that was helpful. And even during that whole pandemic, Leica was doing these amazing kind of classes with photographers, not classes, but things you could tune into. And they had one of their people interviewing all these photographers and how they did things. And that was huge for me, because I bought my first film camera I bought an M6 rangefinder because I was like, well,
really?
I already have some M lenses, so why not get a film camera? Because these lenses go back. You can use cameras from 50 years ago with these lenses, and I bought an M6 from the early 80s. And I remember my business manager called me. She was like, Joe, you can't do that. This is like May 2020. She's like, we don't know when, you're going to have income again. And I was like,
right. Yeah.
I know. You don't have to yell at me. I know. You can't do that. And I was like, I know. All right. I won't do that again. And so I was like, all right, if I'm going to get any more gear, then I have to earn it,
Yep.
And I was watching these Leica classes, and one in particular, they were talking to Steven Vanesco in LA, and he sells prints. And I was like, we have the same printer. Why can't I do that? And we have a bunch of fans and people like the pictures. So I figured out, like anything, I dove in head first, and just here we go. I was like, I'm going to sell some pictures and whatever you want. And it was just a shit show. A bunch of people wanted pictures, which was awesome. But I was just all over the place. I was like, oh my God, I don't want it to be good. And I was over trying in some areas and not trying hard enough in other areas. And, within a few months, I got it down to a science. But what really helped me was doing a print of the week. I started in September last year. And I was like, if I print out 10 pictures a week and sell them, and people loved it, and which totally surprised me. I thought it would last 2 weeks, and it ended up going until we started to, for nearly a year straight. And I got it down to a science, where it took me 4 or 5 hours to get the whole thing together and get it shipped and packaged properly. I got it down to about 30 minutes. I know, just by getting other gear, but it totally paid for all of my gear obsession, my camera gear obsession thing. And I put all the money right back into camera things.
Yep. I know that. I know that process well. I totally understand that process.
It was great.
Your website, I noticed your website. I mean, you're kind of lacking on photos. There's only, I think, 2 left up there. Any plans to?
There's one. It's just custom photo, whatever you want. If you see something you like, let me know, and I'll print it. And I mean, we've been on tour, so I'm glad I haven't gotten too many, or when people order something, I'm like, hey, I'll refund you, but I'm not going to be home for 3 weeks, and I can print it in 3 weeks if you want, if that's okay. Yeah. And everyone's always cool. They're like, yeah, totally. And I think there's one left of the last print of the week, and I'm just letting it sit there because it's, whatever. I'm not necessarily hustling on that too hard right now. We're back at work, and we've just been so friggin' busy. Even now, even off this tour, every day has been another thing with interviews and getting stuff ready for whatever. It's great. I am not complaining, but yeah, I mean, I'm still printing stuff out. I just printed some things out this morning or yesterday morning and shipped them, and I enjoy doing it. I love seeing it printed, and I have a bunch of different paper I've bought to see, doing all my tests on paper that I like, and it's just fun.
Yeah, I mean, your images are so cool. I mean, that sort of behind the scenes, documentary style, like you're saying, it's just so cool to see that, when it comes to taking photos, I mean, obviously a large amount of your photos are related to the band, specifically Lizzie.
Yeah.
Is there ever a point where she's like, dude, chill out with the camera or anything like that?
No, she's such a good sport. She always gives me some favor. I'm like, Lizzie, turn around. There's this light right here. She's like, okay. And she likes it too. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, if she was ever, whatever, God, I wouldn't do it, and
right.
It's a beautiful collaboration because she, she's learning a lot about how to work that part of it too. And I'm learning how to talk. That's such a funny thing to talk with somebody about, all right, cool now, but yeah, move this way. All right, trying to get the shadows just right, and how to speak to a person is such an art form. And we work with a bunch of photographers, and I'm always, since I really started getting into this, I'm always listening, oh, that's a good, God, you make everyone at ease right now. You just said a few, you just unlocked relaxation. How did you do that? That's amazing. It's awesome. There's such an art to discussing and making it a collaborative effort, and I'm terrible at it still. I'm just move left. I don't know. You tell me. No,
Try to look cool.
look cool and stuff. Cool. That's not it. And, no,
That's the opposite.
Yeah. That's part of the learn. You never stop learning, which is
that's my thing right now. I'm trying to work with a lot of local models to kind of work on my posing, my communication, as you say, stuff like that. That goes a long way, and that really sets you apart to really make people feel comfortable and kind of get that magic moment.
It's incredible. Like this, hanging out with Denny Dan in LA. He's part of the Leica family out there, and some of the Leica folks put us together because I had some questions about something. They're like, well, Denny knows about this and you should hang out with him. And I was out there anyway. And we were like staying a few blocks from each other. So we went and had coffee, and he's like, can I take a picture? And he just like said a few things. I was totally comfortable. I was like, I'm never comfortable in front of a camera. I'm terrible, like on this side of it. And he was so good. And I was like, oh man, that guy's, he does that for a living. He's a great portrait photographer and behind the scenes guy and video guy and everything. But I was like, that's magical when somebody has like that thing that just puts you at ease right away. It's
right
to it.
When it comes to you being the point of the camera, I'm sure you probably get flooded on social media with photos and stuff like that. Is there things that you prefer to see or prefer not to see? A lot of guitar players have guitar face and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, you can always kind of tell when someone's like either a beginner or not taking it seriously. Like you don't put up shitty pictures of people, and if you do, it's kind of weird and almost rude. And right. I don't care. I've embarrassed myself. There's enough embarrassing photos of me out there. Like I don't care. Like I can't care about that. But it's always nice, when especially we were just on tour. So every day, I follow the Halestorm hashtag on Instagram. So most photographers that are out will tag Halestorm, and you get to see what everyone did the next day, which is really cool. We have Judy Wan out with us.
Yep.
Taking pictures, and she's just a monster. She's so creative, and like every show has its own. She's able to create like a whole storyline, and she takes pictures of the people in the crowd and these beautiful portraits of like fans that are just, like
amazing moments.
Yeah. I've gotten emotional seeing some pictures that she's taken of some of our fans, because you're sitting there and you're playing and you're doing your thing, and you see like this cute kid or this thing, and somehow she frames it up sometimes, and you're just like, she has this one shot when we did Download in England and at Donington in 2019. There's this little girl standing on her dad's shoulders, and she's got little headphones on. And she's just like, I don't know, her face is just like precious, and like she's in the middle of like tens of thousands of people and just standing on her dad's shoulders. And it is amazing. Like it's like I like cried when I saw it. I don't know why. It's so weird when pictures do that. It's like a good song, it just tugs you in the right way. And you see this little girl just like, she's looking at Lizzie, just like, who knows? I imagined her when I look at that picture, just thinking like, just seeing her world like explode in front of her and the possibilities of what a girl can do, it's just like, it gives me an emotional thing about it now. You see these girls and the way they look at Lizzie, and like, you see them like, this isn't all guy, this is possible. I can do anything, and it's really sweet. And it's one of the reasons why I love pictures, it's like a good song.
Yeah. And I'll add that Judy's, she's got a very unique style. I follow her, and I follow you guys, and I can tell her photos right away. I mean, she's got a very specific style that really, really is very beautiful in its delivery and composition and stuff like that too.
No, she's the shit. I hope she sticks around with us, because she's part of our family, whether she likes it or not.
I think she was with Alice Cooper recently, right?
Yeah, she went out with Alice. She's a little hustler, man. She's awesome. She got her COVID compliance officer license. So not only is she like taking pictures, but she's like running the COVID scene backstage. You test it every day and setting the rules and making sure everyone's keeping their mask on backstage, and then running out there in the show and just snapping killer pictures, and then coming back and like, put your mask on, and then running back. It's awesome.
And I'll also add that your show in with Alice Cooper for me in 2019 was my son's first show as well. So he was a big fan. He had never heard of Alice Cooper, but he had definitely heard of Halestorm. So he was very psyched. His 8-year-old birthday party was Halestorm and Alice Cooper.
What a trip! Awesome.
Yeah, it was a great show. Great show. When it comes to post photos, what's your process post after you've taken the shots?
I put them in Lightroom, and I just like cull, like go through, keep what I want to keep, and then I used to then I would take everything and then edit it right there, and I went through this funny phase of where I liked everything kind of with a greenish tinge. I don't know why, you go through phases. That's all I can have to explain. And now I just kind of leave it, like if it's a good picture, I leave it there and wait until I need it. And then I'll work on it a little bit. If I try to put up a picture every day of most days. And, that's usually that sort of thing. Or if we have a day off, like we had a day off, where were we? In Mount Shasta, California. And we went for a hike up the train tracks to the headwaters of the Sacramento River. There's a cool park. And that I always like, all right, I'm going to just take a bunch of pictures. And now, even if there's not just taking a hike is a story. That is a story, especially if you go somewhere and on the way back, and you're always somewhere, and even if it's not interesting, there's interesting ways to look at it. And, I put that up on my Instagram. My favorite thing is like a batch of pictures, that just kind of tell the story. It's a set of something, but most days we're in arenas and it's this kind of the same exact backstage, and the stage looks the same every day. And, I don't get, I'm not going out in the crowd because we're not going anywhere because it's COVID rules, and we're not seeing any friends. Nobody's allowed backstage, and we're not going to restaurants or bars. So it's it starts to get a little like monotonous, especially on this tour. It's like, all right, and take a few less pictures than normal. But that's when I started experimenting. I got my flash out, and I've got a flash with a Leica and an adapter, so it's wireless.
Yep.
I love the aggressive like Bruce Gilden style. Ever seen Bruce Gilden's street photography?
Yep.
I've watched it's so fascinating, and he does it. He's a Leica guy too. I think he has an M6, and he gets these photos of these fascinating people. He just walks around New York City, and you should watch some video if you haven't on YouTube. Some people have followed him around him doing his thing. He's got his M6, and he's got one of those older flashes with a curly Q cord around his neck.
Yeah.
He always holds it up. He holds it up here and ducks down, and he just walks in front. It's really aggressive, and he walks right in front of people and ducks down, bam, nails them with the flash held up here. So the shadows are always interesting. They're coming from this way instead of right on, and
it's almost a noir style, right?
Yeah, and he's like a character hunter, he finds these fascinating. It's New York City, so it's just full of interesting people, and so I started messing with that on this last tour. Just holding, I was yeah, bam, and you just set the f8 and 400 ISO and a 125, and with the flash bright enough, just blam, and it's in focus enough. It doesn't have to be deadly sharp to be anywhere. That used to be a thing where sit there and just get the eyeball perfectly in focus always, otherwise right. Miss. And I'm kind of over that whole idea. A great sharp picture is awesome, but also the vibe, I love if the vibe is there, that's everything, it's got to be the vibe. It's like a rock and roll show. A good rock and roll show is not perfect. It's dirty and it's messy, and you make mistakes, and you do it together, or you and the crowd, and you laugh and you cry, and it's awesome. It's just a mess of energy, but the energy is there, and that's what matters, in the moments. And
yeah, the photography definitely translates from the music industry. And a lot of people I've talked to that are photographers were failed musicians. I shouldn't say failed, but they were musicians that really couldn't play the instrument. So they migrated over to photography or something similar like that. Yeah. There's a lot of crossover there.
No, totally. And there's a bunch of there's some great people at Leica right now that are kind of there's a bunch of great rock and rollers that are taking great pictures, specifically like with the Leica stuff. Those are the guys like Randy and Lamb of God and Danny Worsnop and Asking Alexandria and Harrison Whitford. He plays with Phoebe Bridgers, and like these are like Leica dudes, and we all like talk every once in a while. I haven't talked to Randy really about it, but like with Danny and Harrison, like we're like, hey man, what do you like, what are you using? What's this? And oh my God, that's cool. And it's a fun little family happening over in that Leica part of the world, and I love it.
It's a very elite club, that's for sure. I mean, everyone I talk to who says once you go Leica, there's nothing else.
It messes you up. I don't even know. I wish I could say like, yeah, I researched the Nikons and the Canons and the Sonys and the Fujis, and I didn't. I like Jim Marshall shit, and these guys, kept seeing this thing pop up, and so I needed to know about it. And that's what I wanted to shoot with, because my heroes did, just like a guitar. And that's what you want to play with that, because that's what the guys you grew up on did. And so I just went right for that, and I'm glad I did. Otherwise I'd probably, I don't know. I'm glad I did.
So, well, I think you kind of answered this, but on your days off, did you try to, prior to COVID, did you try to go out and sort of see scenery and do photography, or what was your day off usually? Yeah,
no, always. Like, especially once I really like the photography part of my brain started kicking in. I mean, I always hiked anyway, like days off, no matter where, whether you're in Delaware or like Munich, Germany, or Tokyo or Sydney or Auckland, it's the same, like South Dakota, I'm going to go hike, like just, we're usually in a city center or something and just go around. And back pre-COVID, you go hike around, find a bite to eat, and maybe find one of the local breweries and see what's going on there, or look up interesting places to go, or historical places, or nature, beautiful, like waterfalls, or, whatever, what's the vibe of that town. And that's kind of, especially once I started taking pictures and trying to put stories together, which is more of a newer thing in the last year. So these days off on this last run have been fun when we can get out and it's not 0 degrees. But how do you put together a story of your hike through this thing? And Lizzie always goes, she's always game, her and I are always the first ones out with the bus stops, and we're like, bam, we're gone. Like, I don't need to go in the hotel room. I don't need to, I want to go look at things. I've been on the bus long enough, and that's what we do. Just go and hike places. Now these days where it's not couth for us, it's so annoying, man, this COVID shit. It's like, I can't wait till it is truly endemic. And like, I've played on stage with the flu before. I've nearly shit my pants multiple times when I was just like, go for the harmony. I'm like, this is a horrible idea. And like, just white as a ghost, like, oh my God, we got to get through this set. I feel horrible. It's like, it's an awful experience, but the tour doesn't have to be canceled because of it, Right. And now, even if, you have a case of COVID and you can't even feel it, tour's off. And you're like, fuck.
Is there like when it comes to the road, is there a favorite place you like to visit? Favorite venue, favorite towns, favorite, whatever's? Always. There's so many, I always look forward to Munich, Germany. I discovered recently that I have like a lot of, my family, I'm Joe Hottinger. My family comes from southwestern Germany, the Swiss border. There's like a Hottinger Strasse in Zurich, and apparently those are my people. And I should have known, because anytime I've been in Germany, even before I knew this, it was always like pretzels, beer, and bratwurst. I'm like, I'm in. This is the best shit ever, and I always love Munich. There's a few breweries there that us and the crew always end up at and have a great time. And Paris, I just fell in love with that city. We went there, Liz and I went there a week early before that 2019 tour started, and had a great time. We just walked around all day, like wake up, hike around. It was amazing. The Paris Photo was there, this huge convention, and I had no idea. And it
we got tickets and went in, and it was amazing. Like all these artists and mini galleries everywhere and all these cool books. And I was so annoyed we're on tour because it's hard to buy books on tour, you know, especially when you're overseas because they weigh so much, and you get into like Norwegian Air or some of those, they won't even let you on with a backpack that weighs more than 20 pounds. And like my backpack is like 50 pounds. It's like ridiculous. It's I just shove all my cameras in there, and it's terrible. But so you got to be good. I got to be good. But yeah, there's a bunch of favorite spots for sure, but I love going to new places too, and places we haven't had a chance to walk around in yet. We had a few coming up on this Euro tour, and I hope it still happens. We don't know yet. Seems like everyone is just shutting everything down right now because this Omicron shit. And we'll see. We're supposed to be there in February, and we'll see.
Yeah, well, hopefully so. I mean, you guys are just, last weekend you were supposed to be playing in Massachusetts, and I was so psyched to go, and then that got pushed back, so. Yeah,
bummer. Hopefully it happens in January.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, God.
So, I could give you a few more questions. We'll call it a day. But what do you, during COVID, everyone's got a show and stuff like that. Anything specific you're watching? You mentioned the Beatles Get Back.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, that just came out.
Yep.
Did you watch that yet?
I started watching, what was the other one? The Paul McCartney one.
Oh, with Rick Rubin.
Yeah. I started that one. Yeah.
That's amazing too. But I mean, I've been a long time Beatles fan. That Abbey Road was what got me into them, and I ended up working my way back down to the beginning and love every part of all of it. But that Get Back documentary, like, get out, man. It is insane. Like, you think of that period, 1969, like, oh, the Beatles are falling apart. And, they kind of were, I guess, but you watch them, like, they were having so much fun. And it seems like apparently they hadn't played together in like 8 or 9 months or something. They took a bunch of time apart. Get back in, like, they're like finding their spot together again. And like Paul McCartney's the man,
Yeah.
They're all the man, but like Paul rolled in every day. He's like, I got this idea. And he'd just be like, Mother Mary, and like just working out Let It Be right there. And you're like, what? You see him Get Back, like he's sitting there just hashing it out. And within like 30, 45 seconds, like the bones are there, and you're like, oh my God, it's there. That's it. And he's like just sounding out words. I'm like, no, that lyric stuck. Like that one stuck. And he hasn't even put together the concept yet. And a bunch of lyrics already happened. Like, what is he like, what is he tapping it? What is this muse that he has tapped into that is so powerful that he just rolls in every day? And he's like working out, Oh Darling. You're like, oh my God. But the best part of it all was like, they were they were so good. They're such a good band. And they were so good because and this is where I related so hard, like the four of them, only they could speak that language. Nobody else ever could. Even they brought in Billy Preston, and that guy is such a great like player and side, like he fit right in with them. But it was like, but it was the four of them, even before he came in, when they would lock in, it was like, it's just magic. They would just lock in the moment, like jokingly playing through an old song, and Ringo's always there fucking right on the groove, and like anybody that says Ringo is shitty, like you don't know what you're talking about, and I will no longer listen to you and your opinion because you're wrong. And that's a fact.
He is the root of so much rock.
He was ripping, and then his weird fills, like, and they're like so out there and so awesome, and like it just flowed with everything. Like, who just does a chorus with just some time? That's the chorus, and I don't know. It's awesome. Like, yep. But the most amazing thing was the four of them. They're so happy to play together and to do the thing they do. And like, I related so hard, like when the four of us got back together after 6 or 7, whatever it was during the pandemic. And like, I don't know, do we even know how to do this anymore? And it's like, you just fall right into the thing and you start making the jokes and doing the same thing. We have 20 years of history together. The things that only we can, jokes that make sense to nobody but us, and it's just our language, musically and verbally, and it's just and you see them doing that too. And I was like, see, we're a band too. It's the same. It's just people that like to play together. And I mean, they had all those days in Hamburg where they learned how to play together, you know, and they became like glue. And you know, we had 1,200 shows together before we got signed, and you just learn a lot during that time, whether you like it or not. Things happen, you know. We all instinctively know when RJ's, if he's pushing a fill, to land right on it with him, and we just know exactly how to. It's part of the language. It's amazing.
Yep. And I read a few amazing things about that album was like they had 2 weeks to record it or something like that. They're something ridiculous.
I can't so the idea was they're like, all right, it's January 1st or 2nd or whatever. Like, let's do a show on the 19th or the 15th, whatever. And we'll just get together for these 2 weeks, write some songs and record them and then play a show.
Yeah, no big deal.
It's 2 weeks. Just make a record. Like, I was like, yeah, right. There's no way that's going to happen. And it didn't exactly happen, but it was close.
Right.
And the songs are there. And you're like, what? And
it's some of the biggest songs in history.
They pulled it off with, some of the deadliest songs ever. And you're like, oh my God, it's almost not fair.
And I also read, I haven't watched it yet, so I don't know, but I also read that the technology they used to get some of the audio off of the files, because I guess, again, I don't know if this is true, but I was told that when they were talking and they didn't want other people hearing, they would play guitar and then talk to each other while they're playing. And I was told that they had to strip the guitar out to actually hear the conversations in the videos. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read.
There's one scene where like somebody had the foresight to put a microphone in the flower pot in like the catering room or something. And like, it was a whole conversation between John and Paul kind of hashing some shit out. And it's intense. And it's also amazing because, you know, they're strong personalities and they have things that they need to do. And they're very compromising, and like, you know, everyone's like, oh, Yoko, you know, and it is totally bizarre. She's sitting right next to John the whole time, like in the circle of the four of them. There, you know, and everyone was cool, man. They're like, no, John's doing this thing. They were exploring love, but always being next to each other. And cool, whatever. We'll just keep doing our thing. And maybe they were pissed off about it, but they didn't show it, and it seemed respectable and respectful towards John and Yoko and their love. And I thought that was beautiful. I was like, that's amazing. Like, that's so, like, not like, oh, Yoko did it. And it was more like, no, that, you know, totally awkward. Like, I would be totally weirded out, and we would have to have a conversation. But, you know, they were very respectful, and I dug that.
Yep. You into any of the other like Marvels or anything like that? Anything else?
Yeah, I'm not a huge
TV
Marvel
movie
thing. I got such a low tolerance with shitty movies. I'm not saying Marvel shit is shitty. I like every time I see it, I just don't know the universe, and it's just I feel like it's spun out of my control. There's things going on that I wouldn't even know where to start with. But there's been a bunch of good shit. We got into the Queen's Gambit, and like these, I love these long form series, you know, that are happening now. And it's such a great way to, you know what, now when I watch a movie, it's like 2 hours, if even, like you can just feel it skipping by this character about like, oh, this happened for 30 seconds. Now this is how this person is forever. And it's just like, oh, the series thing, you can go a little deeper and develop a real emotional connection to the, you know, and I've been enjoying that more. Like, we're watching The Witcher right now, because that just came out.
The new season? I haven't seen it yet.
It's cool.
Did you play it at all?
What's that?
Did you play it at all?
No, I didn't know.
Okay.
We watched the first season. I didn't know anything about anything, and it was enjoyable. You know, it was a good ride, and this one's all right. I don't know. I can't say I recommend it or not, but I'm watching it. It's always like, what was the last thing? It was really the Beatles thing that melted. It was the last thing that melted my brain.
Nice. If you're into it, on Netflix, I've been watching Arcane, which is a beautiful animation show. Really, really well done.
Cool.
But yeah, I'd recommend that. But last question: and what are you listening to these days?
Good Lord, our new record over and over. Just because we had to for a while. Now, like I listened to it again today because it's still fun. You know, I know once it comes out, probably it'll be years before I listen to it again, but it's still fun. Like, man, we made that. Sounds killer. Amazing. But that and the new Mastodon record, come on, it's so good. God, those boys rip. Like, they're just so cool. And what else this year, man? There's been a bunch. I love that Black Keys record, that blues cover album they did. Double Cream is just dead. Apparently, they did that in like 2 days or something.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I was like, what? Sounds awesome. And I love that shit. Like Tom Petty's my all-time number one hero, and the Wildflowers box set that came out within the last year is incredible. It was supposed to be 2 albums, so all those other songs are on that, and they're so good. It's like you get another Wildflowers almost. It's amazing. But what else has been on my playlist? There's a lot of that. My favorite thing to tell people the last 3 years now, 4 years since I discovered it, is this FIP radio, FIP. It's a little pink app in the App Store, and it's like French public radio or something. And it's free. It's a free app, and like the main station is outstanding. Like it's all genres. You know, it'll go from like some hip hop to some rock to some classical and some opera and blues and jazz. Like it's just all over the place. But they do cool things. Like they'll play this jazz song, and you're like, wait, I've heard that before. That's in that Beastie Boys sampled that. And then they'll play the Beastie Boys song and sample it, or they always mix in cool little themes throughout that. You're like, wait, what is the theme here? There's a theme. And then every once in a while, someone's like, I can't speak French. That's a terrible impersonation. They'll say something. I don't know. Then they go right back to the music. There's no commercials. and it's amazing. Like I've discovered more cool records listening to FIP, and on the app, they have like subgenre FIPs. Like there's FIP rock, which I like hard rock more, whatever. Yep. It's not very hard and doesn't get very heavy, and that's okay. Still interesting. But the FIP jazz station is the shit if you like jazz at all. And I love putting it on and letting it ride. And I'll send some improv, some old live 60s improv, or Ornette Coleman or something will come on, and you're like, oh my God, dude's getting it. It's cool. And
awesome.
FIP is like across the board, just so much fun to listen to.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. I'd never heard of it before. That's awesome.
It's my hot tip.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you doing this. I'm a big fan of you guys, and it's really an honor to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you asking it. It means the world. And I love talking music and camera stuff and photos. I could do that all day, obviously.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode with Joe Hottinger of Halestorm. We hope you enjoyed it. You can check out our other guests on our podcast on YouTube by searching for Tales from the Pit Photo, and on talesfromthepit.net. We'll see you next time.